Welcome back to another episode of the Juan and Keir podcast. I'm Keir, and this is Juan, as you may well know. And today I thought we'd choose kind of a unique topic, somewhat linked to the topic of the overall theme of our
I think it's
show.
linked.
Yeah,
it's definitely linked.
It's linked, but it's out there. Like it's not our usual bread and butter.
Exactly.
So I think in these times that we live in, I think most of us would agree they're turbulent. You know, the world's gone a bit more dicey, shall we say?
Yes.
And I think what would you do, like if you thought like things were gonna get bad real soon? Well, if you knew like soon the end was coming, what would your last moments be really?
I think I would just like travel all around the world and enjoy life, and then wait for the inevitable as quickly as possible. I think.
Ideally, if we had the chance to like prepare a bit, like if we had like a day's time of warning, that's what most of us would do. We'd try and make the best of it. Most people would probably be with their family, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But for a select few of the world, that's not going to be their plan, or at least what they hope it will be. Because over the last few days, I've been researching a worrying trend. And I don't know how to say this without sounding hyperbolic, but today's topic is doomsday bunkers. I never thought I'd be saying the word doomsday, unironically. But, well, here we are. The end times are nigh. Prepare yourself.
Well, the end times have been nigh for a while, but whether or not the end times are coming, people are preparing for them.
Well, some more than others. Preparing for the end times or for unstable periods of conflict, violence, natural disaster, that's not uncommon. It's happened for years.
Mm-hmm.
But whereas in the past, doomsday prepping or the prepping movement, at least in the US, that used to be a more low-key thing. It used to be people, survivalists, conspiracy cooks, they'll just have like small fallout shelters.
In their own basements
Yeah.
of their houses.
I mean, some people might be a hut in the woods, really not that hidden. But what we've seen is people, ultra high net worth individuals or multi-billionaires building not shelters, not bunkers, but sprawling complexes that defy the idea of what a shelter is. Because we're not talking about like a bunker that is a steel door, concrete walls. No, we're talking about gigantic buildings with the most extravagant like amenities possible. What would you say a bunker should have? Like, what would your ideal bunker be?
Well, I imagine my ideal bunker would look a lot of like what these guys look like, because you don't want to have, you want to have like, I think like it's interesting because like if you were born in the bunker, like you wouldn't know like life outside of it. But like from people that like if like they lived in the real world and then they went to the bunker, you'd want like as many things as possible. Like obviously like bed to stay in, maybe like a nice little pool, like stuff like that. Like, well, not little, but like, but it's like, I guess it would be like asking for a lot, but obviously like, you would want as much as like your normal life as you could in that bunker. Well, like not normal, but like your enjoyable life.
Maybe I phrased it wrong. Maybe like what would your stereotypical image of a bunker be? I think that would be more.
Well, I think it's weird because I think like obviously like if you said this like pre-2010s and stuff like that, you would definitely say like, oh, it's just like a gray wall with like some cans and a couple beds and a shitty toilet.
Yeah.
That would be like the image of it. But obviously like throughout, and you're gonna talk more about this, like throughout recent times, like when we see bunkers, they've all been like, it's usually like YouTube videos about like, oh, these extravagant bunkers and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess you're gonna talk about precisely that.
Well, see, that if you ask the random person what a bunker is, they're gonna say kind of what you said: grey concrete walls, kind of like those army style beds. I mean, that's more of a like fallout shelter, but anyways. See, when I was doing my research, I was looking at some of the companies that specifically cater to the doomsday bunker for the rich man. One of these is called Opidum. Now, I do believe the company doesn't exist anymore because I can't find links that still work to this day.
Yeah, they might have changed their name or something.
It could be that, but the company, as I heard of it, doesn't really. The link to its website doesn't work. It's shut down. But
maybe they filled their beds.
maybe they. But this company was called Opidum, and they were probably one of the bunker companies that I saw that really cater to the select few.
Okay.
Because I will talk of another one that has more affordable options, but the cost of one of the cheapest bunkers at Opidum was $8 million. That's the cheap option.
I actually do think that like there's a lot of people in this world that have $8 million. But obviously, like, to spare, no. Not to spare.
Well, the most luxurious option was 60 million.
Yeah, again, like, not to, people don't have that money to spare. But, like, obviously, like, the amount of people who could buy that are probably still, like, in the tens of thousands in the world.
But I think this is what Opidum was going for. Whereas you could go to other people to just build your bunker. These were the people who were selling you the quality cut.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I could gather from sources that still talked about them, where Opidum shone, or at least tried to, was in their value of having luxury amenities for bunkers. Okay. Amenities such as spas, indoor gardens with fake skies, art galleries, wine cellars, garages, movie theaters, secure meeting rooms. Because imagine that. The bombs have fallen. The end of the world is.
You want your privacy.
No. You want secure meeting rooms. Why do you want to have meetings in the apocalypse? Why work? That's the end of the world. I
guess like the work becomes just survival, right? It's like GDP of the world has fallen by 97%, maybe 99, probably 99.99, and it's like you still have to hold meetings.
I'd rather take the bomb.
But you know who doesn't who doesn't care about radiation in the atmosphere? Robots. They will be doing maybe there won't be a drop in GDP. Maybe all the robots will do all the work.
I've seen other mentions of the luxury doomsday bunker. Other amenities included. I don't know if these are actually real. I don't know if they've built one already, because this is a topic that is highly secretive, obviously for good reason. If you know where a doomsday bunker is, it's
exactly.
not that safe.
Yeah, number one, like for like security reasons, but number two, because like these aren't public goods, right? These are not meant to be mass consumption goods. So like advertising in general is like not gonna be to you or me or like to the everyday person. Obviously, like if you're gonna try to sell these bunkers to people, most of it is probably gonna be like directly talking to the people that have enough money to buy it, or word of mouth from those people that have enough money to buy it. And so, in that sense, I think that like it's no surprise that we know very little about it because we don't have enough money, right? Like they don't give a shit about letting us know about it because like, the fuck are we gonna do, you know?
They're missing out on I'd say 200 euros worth of
exactly.
net worth. Like that could build me not even a wall.
Yeah, I was gonna say like
a door.
I think with 200 euros, like you could probably maybe put your pet rat. You know, maybe.
Well, if I can survive the apocalypse with a pet rat, I think I'm good.
Well, you can't survive with your pet rat. Your pet rat could.
But when I first heard about these bunkers for the rich, the ultra rich, I didn't think it was going to be something beyond the kind of eccentric projects of the rich. You know, I've heard of weird eccentric side projects and pet passions from multi-millionaires, billionaires before. I mean, I once heard of an American multi-millionaire who came to Spain and moved brick by brick a castle to the US. Or like, he moved all the remains of a castle. It was demolished, you know, But he moved it brick by brick. I was like, why don't you just build it at that point, like
Man.
from scratch?
Yeah, like, bro really did Castle of Theseus. If you, I mean, it was the same rocks, but it's in a different location. Is a castle the same castle if the castle moves? Because a ship is the same ship if it moves, right? Like by definition, it's like something that's meant to move. I don't know. Obviously, yeah, that's eccentric. But I do see the appeal of it a little bit. I can't lie.
Well, before sidetracking into a very interesting tangent, I didn't think this trend was going to be anything more than a few cases. But one strategic consultancy firm, they actually did the research on this. Unfortunately, I couldn't access the full details because it cost a fortune to access. But Report Ocean, this consultancy firm, they estimate that the global underground bunker construction market in 2023 was valued at $23.12 billion US. That's a lot of money for what is presumably a very, very selective market. Like,
it's also a lot of money for something that is either something that's useful for the end of the world or just a gigantic waste of money. Right? This is either like one of the big, like a huge market inefficiency, where like, I mean, obviously a market for is not like how much money has been spent. It's like the potential earnings or like what they view as like how much money they could bring in. But let's say that they could bring in like 23 billion. If the world is fine, this will be the biggest waste of money like ever.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not ever, but I mean, I guess I would have to study the entire history of the world and construction and uses of money. But like it'd obviously be a gigantic waste of money because like a bunker is so much more expensive to build than a mansion because mansions can, go over the ground and you have fresh air and it's way easier to build because you don't have to dig that deep. You just need to lay the foundations and that's it. You don't have to like make sure that it's livable, that there's air going below the ground. And so in that sense, it's like, there's like the thing with me that I'm like thinking about bunkers. It's like, I guess like, I want to be generous and think that it's like, oh, they just have a plan B in case things go wrong. And it's not that they think things will go wrong, but rather that they have like, oh, if things go wrong, I'm still going to live. But it's like, it's like J.D. Vance said that like people who didn't have children maybe shouldn't vote or something like that because they were like not sufficiently interested in the future of the country, of the US. And so I'm like, I feel like if you have a doomsday bunker, I think the same of you. You're not sufficiently interested in the future of humanity to be able to. They
don't have a stake in this race. You know what I mean? Like.
Well, they have a stake, but they also have like an exit plan. If it's like you had like if your dad had like a second house and it's like, oh, this is a house for me, not for any of you, just in case our house blows up. And it's like, why the fuck would our house blow up,
Well, what do you know that we don't?
Exactly. It's like, why the fuck did you get a house just for yourself? And like, why are you like even like, why did you even get that? You were never stepping foot in that house. It's like ugly as hell house. It's not even that comfortable in comparison to the one we already have. Like, why the hell did you get that? And so like, I think in general, it's like a sign of, I don't know, like people spending money on this rather than spending money on fixing the world's issues seems like such a gigantic waste to me.
I saw one idea of like why to this. Obviously one of them is fear and security is a powerful kind of guiding force for everybody. It's just most people don't have that kind of money to spend on fear and safety related. Like if I genuinely felt like there was a threat to my life, I don't have much choice except contacting the police. I can't hire private security. But for these people, because they have the money, they can entertain these ideas. But I saw another one is for the average ultra high net worth individual. I'm not talking about like the casual millionaire or
the casual non-ranked.
Yeah, non-ranked.
Like the bronze, maybe the gold rank.
The division
billionaires, millionaires, instead of like the diamond grandmaster. Billionaires. There's a gaming references for all of you that don't know ranks.
But for the average ultra high net worth individual, they're already kind of divorced from reality in the sense that they live in houses more and more so now that are kind of isolated from the public. whether it be isolated geographically because they're kind of far out in the countryside or away from major locations, but also isolated in the sense that you can't see into them.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Jeff Bezos' house I believe it's in LA, well, one of his houses in LA.
Idea.
He's built hedgerows that are, I don't know, say, I think 40 feet high, when obviously municipal coding law doesn't allow that. So he just pays the fine continuously. But they're so high that nobody can see into it. Because they want privacy. Sure, everyone wants privacy, but 40 feet worth of wall. Then when they do go out into public, either they use modes of transport that are impossible to bump into a random person, helicopters, limos. They also, if they're walking down the street, they have an entourage of guards pushing people out of the way. They never interact with the person. So for them, a house in the time where not many people are going to be there, but the few people who do remain will see them now more than ever as a target, because there's a shelter, there's food. For them, it's just a continuation of how they've lived already, pushed to an extreme. But houses with armed, reinforced concrete walls and defense systems to keep people out, that's kind of the same as what they do already. It's just continuing a trend of them isolating themselves.
Except no fresh air.
On the subject of fresh air, apparently one of the people who's building these kind of shelters, they're saying one of the biggest problems for them is finding air filtration systems. Because obviously it's a specific piece of technology, not widely accessible, and the few ones that remain, they're now kind of in a bidding war to try and get the few ones remaining. So fresh air in many cases is not free, which sucks. I thought air was always going to be free.
Yeah, it's them and Hamas compete against each other for for the air filtration systems.
And well, going back to this trend, I think it's good to say trend because it's a repeated kind of thing that's happening.
And it seems to be increasing a little bit, like the Mark Zuckerberg compound in Hawaii. And many other places in the world. The whole, I think you're going to speak in more detail about this, so I'll let you do that.
But on the rising frequency of this trend, in 2022, the CEO of Rising S company sales, another company that...
Was it Rising S?
Yeah, Rising S.
Okay.
He gave an interview on the outbreak of the Ukrainian-Russian war. This is a company that deals in bunkers as well. He says at that time, sales for these kind of bunkers had spiked by... Well, sorry, not sales, inquiries. Inquiries had spiked by 1,000%. That's a lot. He says in one day in February of 2022, he sold 5 bunkers in one day, from prices ranging from $70,000 to $240,000. Again, what constitutes a bunker versus...
So there'd be a bunk rather than a bunker, like... I'm sure it is like a small, like... They probably have like... Because there's like 2 types of bunkers, really. There's like for the ultra wealthy, where like you make it yourself. And it's like this gigantic complex that you run by yourself. And there's obviously like the ones that are also for the wealthy, obviously, because if they're like 70 to 40, 240,000, like on the off case that there's a nuclear apocalypse, then like obviously you have to be wealthy. If you can spend like 70K just in case, then yeah, obviously you're wealthy. But what I mean is like these are probably like hotel like bunkers, right? Where like there's multiple rooms, and sure there might be some bigger rooms from like whoever is like the biggest owner or something like that. There's probably like the suites and stuff like that, but there's still like gigantic bunkers. There's like this YouTube video that came out 5 years ago that I saw again today, and it's like a 75 it's like not for just one person, like they're like it's like this hotel like for 75 people that has like a pool and stuff like that. And yeah, it's like obviously you can have like the community ones and then the individual ones.
Yeah, the one other company I saw but didn't really mention, well, investigate too much. It's called Avivos, and when you look at their website, for bunker complexes. You have like for the individual, and then some cases were like for a family, groups of 20, and then the biggest one I saw was 50 to 75 people, which I feel is a bit optimistic. Like if things are, in the sense, like imagine all hell is breaking loose. Do you really think 75 people are gonna make it in time to some isolated remote compound? Unless they have like a private helicopter.
I mean, obviously, like you could say, like if war starts between two great powers, like, well, whether or not Russia's still a great power, who knows? But they have nukes, so yeah, they're the great power because they have nukes. But like, if like Russia and the U.S. start to have like a serious war, or like Russia and China, or like not Russia and China, U.S. and China, or France and Russia, right? These are nuclear power. I mean, I don't think France has that many nukes, but they have nukes. And so if like people start to like fight in this way, you can like go to the bunkers, and then like if the nuclear apocalypse starts, you just go inside. But yeah, I mean it's like you'll move near it, when things like that happen. But
Rising S, do you know what their company motto is? This is on LinkedIn, by the way. This isn't like a hidden secret anymore. Like companies are now publicly making it aware. We sell bunkers. But you know what Rising S's motto is?
What's their motto?
I love it. We don't sell fear, we sell preparedness. I don't know. Selling like doomsday bunkers does smack a bit of selling fear, Like,
yeah.
Only we can protect you when all hell breaks loose. Buy from us.
Yeah.
It's a bit cynical, don't you think?
Like I'm really thinking about it, and me personally, like I mean maybe I'm a little bit claustrophobic, so maybe there's like factors into it. But I'd rather just die than go into a doomsday bunker, honestly. Like, if there's like, I could go into a bunker for like tops a month, I think. Like, after a month, I think I would go insane. And like, if there wasn't like plants or anything in the earth, I would just seek the end, honestly. Like, to me, it's like, imagine living in this planet full of like rich nature and culture and abundance, and obviously abundance depends, but like for most people in the West, that is the case. And like then go into a wasteland. Like I couldn't take that personally, and I certainly wouldn't want to continue people going into that. I mean, obviously, like if I had children or something like that, then the equation could be different, I guess, because maybe it's like, well, I can't make the decision for them. Right? And I guess in a different way, you could argue that, where it's like, well, I have progeny and I can't just be like, oh, I have to end it and then end theirs. It's like, no, they have to choose for themselves. But like me personally, I would not enjoy living in a bunker for any long period.
The thing is, some of these bunkers, the designs and the intention of people trying to construct them implies to me this is not going to be a short-term stay. But they're trying to design it to not stay in them for a month, but for years at a time. Because they're looking at how to have air filtration systems that work kind of indefinitely. Obviously, because if the air filtration system breaks down, you'd choke to death. Like generator systems, and then hydroponic and agricultural like enclosures underground with artificial sunlight.
My question is how they gonna have like. Obviously, the limiting factor is food, right? There's no way. I mean, I guess unless they figure out fusion, there really is, and I guess it goes back into Fallout, right? Unless they figure out fusion, there's really no way to have endless amounts of energy. Unless you like threaten people's lives, I guess like I don't know, maybe there is a way. Like it would obviously like if there's nuclear fallout, like places like Chernobyl. Like you can't live in them, but you can put on a hazmat suit or something like that, and sort of go in and do some activities for a short bit and then exit again, right? And I mean, how long is Chernobyl gonna be unlivable? What, next 1,000 years or so?
A long time.
And so I don't know. Like the issue with me is like even like I would need a serious hope that there would be a good world to go back into, because other than that, it's like. Yeah, I guess like the people who were born in those like in that case and they're not told about how the world was before, like maybe they could enjoy their lives, but God, Like I don't think I would be able to. It's like, you know, I love hiking, I love being in nature, going up mountains. Like no. That would be terrible for me personally. I don't know. Would you go into a bunker? You don't have the money for it, but if you did,
I don't know. I mean, like maybe if it was one of these
really nice ones.
really nice ones, I could live with the thought. But if thing is, like at some point, like you probably go crazy.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
Especially if
also you don't meet anyone new.
Yeah. Actually, if you're in a bunker, like if you're sealed in a bunker for years and then suddenly you see somebody, you're gonna panic.
Also, wouldn't they like
if somebody goes out the door and starts knocking, you're gonna be like, no, please no.
What's the size where we no longer have to worry about inbreeding, right?
This is veering.
I'm wondering, like, this has nothing to do with economics or like social change, but I do wonder. It's like
social change, yes.
I feel like it helps to speak about how poorly thought through this entire thing is, right? It's like, sure, there might be some use for the bunker for some period of time, but really the bunker is not the solution.
Yeah.
It's really not the solution. And I don't know if you want to speak more about the specifics of like what's being spent, but to me, like the craziness is that people are even spending like this much money on a potential like doomsday prepper kind of thing for like nuclear holocaust, because these people aren't like, oh, I live in Ukraine, let me put in Ukraine my house. It's, no, let me go to the least likely places to be bombed right now, which are like, well, I guess like Hawaii is like military bases. So maybe Hawaii isn't that unlikely in the case of Mark Zuckerberg, but because it does have a lot of military installations.
New Zealand.
But New Zealand seems like if you're gonna say like, I mean, New Zealand isn't in the West, but like Western culture countries that wouldn't get bombed, New Zealand would be like top 3, right? Like who's even fighting New Zealand? Who's got beef with New Zealand? Let's be real. And so like these people aren't building doomsday bunkers for the case of like their specific country being bombed. They're building bunkers for the case of the entire world being in a nuclear holocaust. So what that indicates to me is that they're like that this is like a complete waste of fucking money, because I think it's much more realistic than like some specific places will be bombed than the entire world. Now, maybe the bombs will be so fucking devastating that they'll affect even continents, or there'll be so much, but probably not, right? It's who's gonna nuke South America? Like that's my question. It's like
other South American countries.
We don't have nukes.
Yeah, but you guys have beef with each other. Like some countries seem to have beef. No, but it's like
we have beef, but we've rarely gone to war with each other because we have very similar cultures, all things considered. We go to war within ourselves, but that's just guns. That's just guns and knives and machetes and Colombian neckties. But yeah, what this indicates to me, and it's like, is that it's like, man, like these guys are like worried about the world ending, and yet they're not actually like you could, like if you were like Mark Zuckerberg and you're building this doomsday bunker, and your net worth is 267 million, and like you're like 67 billion, sorry, million would be chump change for Mark. You could like sell 90% of your wealth, still be an incredibly rich man, because, well, 26 billion is still a lot of money, and use that money to like give people housing, like give people food, give people healthcare, and it would go a long way to pay a lot of that. Like it wouldn't like solve all the issues, but it would go a long way, right? Like even just 200 bill would pay for like what, like 1/4 of Medicaid a year. Like sure, you're not like changing the entire world yourself, but like that's a gigantic like drop. Like that's not just a drop in the bucket. That's like a bucket in the bathtub, right? It's like you're not filling the bathtub with a bucket, but it's a lot more full than it was before, right? And if enough people like Mark did that, then we would have a better world. Yeah. That would like where we wouldn't be worried about these things happening. But no, like individually, because people don't like, they fail to coordinate, right? Like every one of these issues has like a coordination problem in the end of the world. Instead of everyone paying like a good amount of their net worth, like to like have a perfect solution, like a good solution for everyone in the world, they're like, no, like I'm just gonna have my backup plan and that's it. When I think that obviously, like if you ask them, if you genuinely ask Mark Zuckerberg, I don't think he wants to spend the fucking rest of his life in a bunker, right?
I saw an idea about like another reason as to why this type of bunker. I don't know if it's so much they want a backup plan. It's more if, let's say, like hypothetical case, if Spain enters World War, like if there's a World War again and then nukes are thrown about, and Spain gets involved somehow, you know. Worst case scenario for me is I get vaporized instantly because I live pretty close to a military base. So unfortunately I might be collateral down. But if nukes are thrown and all hell breaks loose and society collapses, yeah, it's gonna suck for me. You know, it's gonna be bad for everybody. But you know, like for you and me, you know, we'll miss the internet, we'll miss the PlayStation, but you know, life moves on. We still have our houses, we still have kind of our family. Entertainment culture, like it'll be very different for a while, but we'll adapt. For the person who has everything, both literally and kind of metaphorically, the billionaires, the end of the world sucks for them because that's going to take away a lot of their lifestyle. If you lived in a world where you had infinite amount of purchase, like power, whether it be money or influence, and then suddenly all of your wealth
You
means
can't
nothing.
travel to half the countries in the world because we're not doing, we're not flying to each other anymore, for example.
But also, in a sense, a billionaire, like billionaires are used to like a distortion of the world because they have so much money, influence, and power. They can do whatever they want, right? Because to the average person, if you throw $200,000, it's like, let me buy that. They might take you up on that on the spot, but when the currency doesn't matter anymore, what do they have to offer? Nothing. In fact, some people might even remember them as being the cause of some problem. So when the apocalypse breaks out, their standards of living are going to drop so much. So what's good for them? A self-isolated bubble where they still hold all the cards. You know, they have food, they have a luxury system. They don't have to deal with the consequences of the world ending. I think that's what's guiding more of this thought. It's also why they're building it in, you know, I mean, isolation is, again, for security reasons, but they're trying to find places which are likely to not be targeted, so they don't have to deal with it. They can still live a relatively comfortable life. And that's why these bunkers are not just, you know, survival only. These are amenity-filled luxury goods, so they can live a life as close to as what they originally had. You know, it's them. They don't want to lose the way of life they had.
Yeah, there's like two like questions I think speak to this bunker thing that I ask myself. Is like, first is like would you rather be like a tail of a lion or head of a rat kind of thing, where it's like some people it's like they'd rather be like the most important people in their bunker or something like that and rule over this small kingdom of theirs in their own way, instead of just being like one meaningless person, like not meaningless, but like less important person in a big world. And the other one is like, would you rather be like the person who toils the most in heaven or like the king and lord of hell, you know, like the ashes, right? And it's like some people rather have like, you know, lord over like this barren kingdom where like barely anything grows, but half of what grows is given to you, and you control all of it, versus like you get like very little, but like everything around you is good, everyone around you is happier than you, everyone around you is like richer than you. And it's like, yeah, sure, it would suck, and it's like a case of comparison, but like if everyone is doing well, that's like a better world. And it's like what do you value, like what do you prefer to see in the world? It's like, do you want to have control, or do you want to have like a more stable and nice world. And it's like, I feel like a lot of these people, they would rather be like the kings of hell, right? Kind of thing. They're like, and it does make sense. Humans in general, like, want control, right? Because control is security, right? The more you control the factors around you, the more that you are safe as a person, right? If everyone around you depends on you to eat, then no one's gonna kill you, right? For example. And so in that sense, like, people want to have these roles of power. And in some way you also depend on them, obviously. But like, the perspective that they depend on you is really, really important, right?
I'm kind of glad you brought this up, because one interesting article I saw on The Guardian was from Douglas Rushkoff.
Mm-hmm.
He's a social commentator, writer. He's kind of a educated man. Big critic of techno-capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of relevant nowadays. But he was invited to a secretive meeting with like ultra-rich individuals, and they were talking about the subject of bunkers. They're trying to find solutions to problems they're coming up with. Because he's also a big proponent of like open source solution problem solving, and they wanted his expertise to come up with ideas. I don't know the details, because obviously secretive meeting, they're not allowing him to say names and whatnot. But in this event, these 5 ultra-rich individuals who are building their own bunkers, one of them asked the question, how do I maintain authority over my security force after the event? Because apparently they don't say the end of the world or the apocalypse, they say the event. But anyways, that question took that group over an hour of discussion. I'm quoting out verbatim from this article. They knew armed guards would be required to protect their compounds from raiders as well as angry mobs. One had already secured a dozen Navy SEALs to make their way to his compound if he gave him the right cue. But how would he pay the guards once even his crypto was worthless? What would stop the guards from eventually choosing their own leader? The billionaires considered using special combination locks on the food supply that only they knew, or making guards wear disciplinary collars of some kind in return for their survival, or maybe building robots to serve as guards and workers if that technology could be developed in time. I'm skipping ahead now, because Douglas, who's obviously horrified from this meeting, he suggested a far more easier solution to this conundrum. The way to get your guards to exhibit loyalty in the future was to treat them like friends right now, I explained. Don't just invest in ammo and electric fences, invest in people and relationships. The response? They rolled their eyes at what must have sounded to them like hippie philosophy. They don't want to, like, the mere notion to some of these people of just cooperation instead of dominion.
Yeah.
Just sounds like, at best, like, oh, hippie dippy liberal love. At worst, it's kind of like disgusting, like the mere notion of having to.
Yeah.
Also, disciplinary collars. Like,
I mean, yeah.
I'm all for
these
bondage.
this is just slavery, right?
I'm all for bondage consensually, but this is.
For consensual bondage, but yeah, obviously, like, they're just basically proposing slavery at this point. And well, they weren't the first ones to invent it, right? Unfortunately, it's age-old tradition. And in many ways, it still probably goes on today. But obviously, like, because of our democratic nations, most of us, it is very poorly thought on. And even the countries that do some sort of it, like, could you say that what happens in, like, the people that build the stadiums for Qatar are slaves? Like, in some ways, yeah, in some ways, no. But obviously, like, these countries that have business with the West, they can't, like, have slaves where, like, they own them, because then it's like, I mean, you own them because you have their passports and you keep their passports, right? Which is basically owning someone's freedom of travel.
No.
But, like, you don't own them because you work with the West, and the West is self-important about, like, the equality of all men, even though we don't verify that they're equal everywhere. And to what extent we actually care about that is dubious. But yeah, and so obviously, to me, like, it all comes from a point of, like, power, and everyone wants to have more power because that means they have more control. But I think that what people don't realize is that if you accrue more power, you will be taking power from someone else. And people are really, really, like, people react really poorly to losing power. To me, like the issue, like everyone's like, oh, like it doesn't matter how rich the rich get because like material conditions are going to improve through technology. And then it's like, first of all, power directly influences what material things you can get. There is a possibility that there exists such a generous elite that they would give all the material things to people. Unlikely, but possible. But possible. But the issue is that like the problem itself isn't really the material conditions, and it never has been the material conditions. Like the material conditions don't, in my opinion, like obviously they affect like your quality of life, but the true like existential thing is like something more biological, which is the threat upon your life of having no power, right? If you're like a rat being cornered by a lion, like that's basically what it feels to like walk next to a king, right? Or I mean, right now we don't have kings, we have kings, but like the kings in the West have lost their power. Well, in the East, in the Middle East, they have not lost their power, right? Like you try spitting Mohammed bin Salman and see what happens, all right?
Well, I mean, you could try spitting at the Western monarchs. I think you still land in trouble.
Well, you get in jail for sure, but like you would probably be like killed for spitting at Mohammed bin Salman, and it's like, sure, jail's still bad, but like I feel like killing itself isn't worth. But whatever. It's like the point is that like when too few people have too much power, like these people decide what happens, and they're free from the consequences of their bad actions, right? When a king killed whoever they wanted, nothing happened to them. They were the king. They had all the power. And we live in a much better society in the West than we did in the past. But these things can still take place through the accumulation of wealth, right? So right now, like in the case of the US, for example, like the bottom 50% hold like $4 trillion in wealth. And about 2/3 of that is like housing and like durable goods like cars. Right, so like 2/3 of the wealth of the bottom 50% of Americans is like things that they can't really sell because they use, right, like a house or like, and so like their liquid wealth, should we say, is like 1.5 trillion, and if you added the wealth of Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Ballmer, so like one of the LA Clippers one, you would already get to 1.5 trillion. So that means that like 6-7 men have as much liquid wealth basically as half the United States. This is essentially like modern. Like obviously, there's more of a law that's more respected than it was back then. But this, in some ways, is modern day like royalty, right? Well, people that have like immense amounts of power.
It's the term techno-feudalism.
Exactly, and even though most things are decided by a jury, like money has so much outsized influence in the law because you can appeal 1,000,000 times. You can have 300 lawyers work against 2 in the government, and so power itself, the conglomeration of power, and it should never be viewed as material resources or viewed like obviously like how many resources you control goes directly into how much power you have, but it shouldn't really be considered in the sense of money and quality of life. It's about how much can you get away with, how much can you do, and what happens is with like inequality increasing. This is what the channel is about at the end of the day. Is that the power of the bottom of like most people is being diminished greatly, right? Like again, like and even if you said that like those 7 people have, you could argue that those 7 people have even more power than 50% of Americans because it takes a lot because few people like one guy with like a sword might be even like more powerful than 2 guys with like half swords. I mean, it's a bad way to explain it, but it's like, put it this way: you have to bribe a government official, right? And let's say you want to bribe them from the laborer's point of view, right? Let's say that you're like 100 people with 10K net worth each, right? You have to, so if you all get together, you're worth $1 million. You're worth $1 million. And you go and you all organize a detail, you all have to agree on like what you're gonna be talking to bribe this official. You all have to be on the same exact page of what you want to get from this dinner. And you have to send a representative that but you might not want to. You might want to go yourself, and so you have to like pay for more plates at the dinner than just the one. If you're a millionaire yourself, you just do a one-on-one dinner and you get like the same, and then the person you're bribing gets the same amount of money, right? Presumably.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, it means that individuals can act faster than groups. This is just a normal advantage that individuals have over groups, right? Which is like, yeah, two heads think better than one, but like one acts faster because it doesn't have to, decide with someone else. And this is the advantage that like, arguably, these 7 people I mentioned are more powerful than half the United States. Which is kind of insane to think about, really, right? And when you put it in that sense, it sounds grotesque.
I was thinking of some of the people you mentioned. For some reason, Silicon Valley seems to have a large amount of people buying up these kind of complexes. I think you mentioned Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg has a $100 million compound in Hawaii with plans for a huge underground bunker, obviously top secret. Peter Thiel, who's a kind of secret billionaire, like he does his best to stay out of the news. He's bought a parcel of land in New Zealand that is roughly the size of Lower Manhattan. And that's going to be a compound, like gigantic mansion compound, again with bunker design. Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, has an arrangement with Peter Thiel that if something breaks out, he'll be like rescued and taken to this New Zealand compound. Some other people I've heard who've been building bunkers, Andrew and Tristan Tate, they've bought a 3.9 million underground bunker in Bucharest. Presumably they will be using it to hide out from the threat of law enforcement at some point. I was just thinking, do you know what we saw? Like the one thing about like the end of the world is just kind of like the great, like a really disastrous reset. So like, no matter like who you are, like if the world ends, all people will suffer horribly in the same way, more or less. But could you imagine just how disappointing it would be for like the end of the world to come, civilization has to start again, and you see some of the morons who've already fucked up the world won't survive? Like, could you imagine knowing that people like Musk, Zuckerberg, Peter Thiel, you see their ugly faces
I have
again?
no doubt if that happens, 100 years later, they will be killed by the very AI that they're creating. I have no doubt because these guys are like completely irresponsible.
One would hope, man.
They're completely irresponsible, and like they would surely start fighting with each other for like the one patch of green grass still left in the world, and then they'd they create Skynet basically to kill each other, and then they would all die because the robots would replace us. But
I don't know.
But
the end times are nigh, and somehow we've made them worse.
Yeah, I really hesitate to think that like the end times themselves are nigh, because I just think that I think it's very unlikely that nukes will be thrown, just because I think that like people are smart enough to realize that like their quality of life just doing the perma war is better than the apocalypse. You know what I mean? Like if you're a Russian oligarch, if you're someone like that, your quality of life is just, and you always have the exit strategy like Assad, right? Like you go to some regime that still maintains like that's still evil in the world, and you pay them like half your net worth, and then they let you live richly within their country because you brought their resources to them. Like, I think in general, like I very much doubt we're gonna have a nuclear apocalypse. Like it would seem very unlikely to me, just because it would beg so much stupidity, because right, it's like it's everyone voting against their own interest in basically every way.
Look, I agree. I don't think nuclear war is that likely. But the problem is with mad doctrine or mutually assured destruction, it only works for rational agents or actors, people who actually realize the stakes. Which group of people do not care whether they live or die, or what happens to them? Like irrational extremist fanatics. So suicide terrorists, religious cults, and just people who might not be mentally sane.
Maybe the guy who said that humanity didn't need to survive, or he couldn't answer that. Did you watch that interview with Peter Thiel?
I thought you were talking about some Altman.
No. Peter Thiel had an interview where he was asked point blank, like, should humanity survive? And he was like, Ooh, it depends. You not see that?
No,
Oh my god, that's
thought-
like historic.
I thought you were talking about an interview with Sam Altman where he said, I think in the long term, AI will be the death of humanity, but in the short to medium term, we'll make excellent corporate profits. It's like, what? Like that's what?
It's like, bro, what the hell are you thinking?
But see, like with news specifically, like people who actually care about everything, they see news as like, oh, if we start a nuclear war, we're all going to die. That'll be bad. But for people who think, if I die now, I'll be guaranteed eternal afterlife of heaven.
Yeah.
Why would they care? In
Like,
fact,
obviously,
if anything, they're doing a favor.
there are irrational people. Like, I think I would say that Peter Thiel is an irrational person. Like, not wanting humanity to survive as a human is an irrational thing, right? Like, surely he thinks that like he can digitize his brain and continue as like an AI in some machine. Peter, let me tell you that the likelihood that you will be that AI is, you don't know that for sure. And like, what's your plan? Like, have people do it before you and then have the AI told you if they're the people? So like, trusting the AI to tell you that, no, it's definitely still my soul inside this robot. I definitely haven't lost my soul. It does obviously what the AI is going to tell you, Peter. It's like...
Like staking your life on being able to be digitized is a bad idea, because imagine like this is a computer screen of me. It's like, hello, human, listen to me. No, don't touch the power switch. Don't you dare. You can, like, unless you like actually make a robot, you're kind of screwed. If the power goes off,
well, you can decentralize your cores or whatever. But at the same time, what I'm saying is like,
I don't want to live on as like Clippy.
No.
Like that doesn't sound like
Listen. I'm clearly not Team Peter Thiel on this one, right? I think that, like maybe it is possible to transcend our human bodies, maybe, but your entire life experience of the continuation of your own memory is like something that you already know works, and I think like taking this gigantic risk, it's like, the theoretical way that we would teleport is like we destroy our atoms and rebuild them somewhere else. And this is very much type of sheep of Theseus, where it's like they're built in the exact same way with the exact same pattern, but is it us, right? Is it made of something else and therefore something else entirely? And I think that in general it's very dangerous gambit if your goal is to continue to exist, right? And I don't know. I think that these people are very nearsighted, and they like right now, like Thiel's company Palantir like already controls a lot of like the data in the world, and they use AI basically to like determine if you're gonna commit an act of terror, which is basically like the plot of Winter Soldier, pre-crime or Minority Report, you could say. But yeah, in general, just like these guys are A, insane. They all say stupid fucking shit. But B, like, and I'm saying this to you, if you're someone that's like, to me it doesn't affect me that these people have all this money, or even then like, I'm getting wealthy of these people because I buy stocks in their companies and stuff like that. Like, listen, if these people become like the kings of the world, and the wealth keeps growing, and they hold, let's say that in 20 years, people like Musk or Bezos, like they hold, if we make it that far, right? But like, in 20 years, people like Musk, Bezos, or Zuckerberg, they have like as much wealth as like 80% of a country like the United States, or like 10% of the world, right? Their ability to act will be much more certain than ours as like 90% of the wealth in the world, because we would have to talk to each other. We would have to congregate and agree on things, and we compete for more food, for more water, right? Where these people only need enough water for them and their close friends, right? And so... in this sense, like I think that we do have to be like worried about these people, like make sure that they don't accrue more and more power, because like obviously like you could say that it's anti-democrat, like anti-liberal to like limit their power, but they already have as much power as they could want, right? Like it's like, sure, we're infringing on their freedoms, but their extra freedom, like their like power infringes on all our freedoms. Because freedom doesn't just come from government, right? Freedom comes from power relationships. Freedom comes from if you have some bully that steals your lunch money every day. He's not the U.S. government. He's not the school. He's not a legal authority, but he's still taking away your freedom, taking away your rights and your resources. And this same thing can be true for people that aren't the government. And so if you're someone that is like very liberal or libertarian, you have to take into account that like freedom comes from you. To have freedom, you basically have to have equality or more equality, because it means that there exists no one in this world with so much power that they could do whatever they want to you without reproach, right?
As like in the liberal government policy or doctrine, I think the phrase is your rights end as soon as they start infringing on my rights. And this is like with all the types of freedoms and rights people have. Like freedom of speech only goes so far to protect you as long as you're not pestering other people. So this is why, like in many places, is it okay to insult somebody? It depends on like what your philosophy is. But generally speaking, you're not given freedom of speech protections for like harassment, because that's infringing on another freedom, which is the like right to
be unbothered, I guess.
no, the right to kind of like
peace of
privacy,
mind.
decency, peace of mind. So in a liberal system, as you say, would infringing on these people's freedoms to, I don't know, say accumulate wealth or private property be a violation? Well, it depends, because if they're infringing on everybody else's rights to many other rights and freedoms, then in a liberal system, it's allowed to like reshuffle things around to keep like, as you said, like an equality amongst everybody. Because if you have rights that are constantly being infringed on, it's not a right. It's just a conditional thing.
Exactly, right. And it's, so put it this way, let's say that like the US in the things were so bad that like there were only 5 employers in the US, right? And it's like if you insulted the CEOs of one of these companies, like you were already like kicked out or fired and had no livelihood because and then like it basically means that you can't say anything, that you don't have freedom of speech, because it's like Jimmy Kimmel got fired for his own freedom of speech and, in my opinion, very tame jokes around the whole Charlie Kirk situation. Whether or not he should have said them, like the idea that it's like every year there's less and less corporations that control most media, right? And so what this shows is that the people who control these corporations control what you say, control what you do. Because like if you say something that the CEO that Elon Musk doesn't like, it's a private company. It's not owned by the state. He can just ban you from Twitter, right? And the same is true for like, obviously we still have competition for now, but the competition is lessening in almost every industry. And that is really, really worrisome. And it's because we're allowing these people to get so rich, right? In the past, like before like the war periods, we allowed people to get as rich as they wanted. And we got the Carnegie Mellons, we got the Vanderbilts, we got the Rockefellers. And these were people that were basically like kings in the United States. And obviously they set up a lot of, in their old age, and maybe to be fair with Elon and Bezos, like they'll get less crazy when they're older. People tend to get more romantic and nostalgic when they get older. Like that's like one of the truths of life. So if they don't ruin the
like Trump is old as fuck.
Well, but Trump is crazy. Trump is insane. I don't think Elon would be this kind of person either. But I mean, like I could see Zuckerberg or Bezos becoming a kind of like Vanderbilt, like setting up a university, something like that, having so much money that you basically do something like that. No, and then you die and your wealth gets displaced through your children or whatever, and unless you only have like the one kid, I guess, then like Zuckerberg's son or daughter, would control everything, would control like all that stuff. But the point is that like in general, like we can't be living in a system where we depend on the generosity of a few men, right? And if these few men are generous or not, ruin our lives. Like it's basically like living under a king anyways. You have no choice, but if because back then when people had kings, it's like, oh shit, we have the horrible one now. Hopefully his brother is nicer. And it's like, oh, thank God the brother is nicer. You know what I mean? But it would be like the weather. You can't control it. And like the whole point of democracy and liberalism is that we should have a say in what happens to our own lives. And I think if you believe in that, then you have to be against the agglomeration of power through any means, right? This obviously the means that the meta these days is getting rich through industry. And I'm not saying that these people that get rich don't have any virtues. They have the virtue of hard work. They have the virtue of like creativity and intelligence and grit. And maybe even you can say that like, you know, in some ways, like carelessness and risk taking is a virtue in some ways. Like a boldness, at least you would say is a virtue, right? So I'm not saying that these people are without virtue, but like their agglomeration of power means that we have less. And so if you're in that sense, if you believe, like I believe in that sense, that we have to make decisions, we have to vote with these things in mind. I don't know, we've already gone pretty long, and you were right. We went like past like 50, like past the hour, and I didn't think we would make it past the hour.
I think today's topic was kind of fortunate that it came up. Like I chose to do this because the new season of Fallout 2 got announced recently, and what a time to be thinking about doomsday bunkers and the apocalypse. With
Fallout is a great series unless you're into ghouls, unless you're into mutants, unless you're into everything being a wasteland. Don't let the end of the world happen.
I don't want to set the.
Well, actually, this Fallout. This is
Actually, as a fun tidbit, that pose, they claim in the show it's to measure the fallout of like a nuclear mushroom cloud. I mean, maybe that's true in real life, but apparently from the lore, it's just because the Fallout boy, the Vault boy icon, is just a happy dude. He's being optimistic about the future. It's not to measure the fallout like they say in the first episode. That's a myth.
Well, yeah.
But anyways,
well,
I mean, use our promo code for 10% off on Doomsday Bunkers.
It's actually a big ad. It's actually, we're speaking bad about it, but we're actually getting paid by Big Bunker.
To quote Rising S companies, we don't sell fear, we sell preparedness.
We sell preparedness. All right.
See you in the next episode, hopefully. Thanks for watching.
Bye.